Alisa.
This is Olivia, and we're back!
It has been a very long time for many reasons. We lost footage when we made a couple of videos, so then we were like, okay, we'll make something new, and then the video software for editing kind of self-imploded. So yeah, we're here with a new video today. It's a tag, nobody tagged us, but we're doing it anyway. So welcome to spells class.
This is the Harry Potter spells tag. Never thought I'd be another uniform again, but
Get ready
here we
to
are.
study spells. Number 1 is Expecto Patronum, childhood book connected to good memories.
This was one of my favourite books when I was younger, called Whispering to Witches by Anna Dale. I don't really have a specific memory, but I just remember reading this book, I don't know, a lot of times. Sometimes even like straight after I finished it, I'd reread it again. I just loved it.
It looks like Draco and Hermione.
It does a little bit. Worst ship ever.
That ship's not okay, and we don't support that. End of story. Mine is a little bit more childish than Elisa's, like for a 4-year-old or something. Pooh Bear. Oh, it won't focus. There you go. It's the Winnie the Pooh Adventures, and I just loved it because my dad used to read it to me before I could learn how to read. And then I learned how to read, so I would read it to him. This was the book that got me to read, basically. And this was always my favourite page as a little kid, just because of Pooh Bear's bum.
Spell number 2, Expelliarmus, a book that took you by surprise.
A book that took me by surprise is Breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. And that's because I watched the movie before reading it, which I think most people do that with that because it's such a well-known movie. Relationship between Holly and Paul is not romantic at all in the book. Spoiler. Back then it would have been really hard to portray a homosexual prostitute in a movie. So they changed it, obviously, and I love the movie more than I do the book, unfortunately, only because I loved the movie so much, and then I was so surprised by the book that it was a little bit hard to enjoy, but I still like it a lot.
Well, my one this is actually the 4th book in the series. This is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. When I first read these books, I wasn't really expecting much from it, and then when I read it, I was really surprised at the characters and the world she'd created, which I love. So I love all her books by now, but yeah, I just wasn't expecting much from the books. But
I like the cover.
Yeah, no, they're actually, you should read it. They're really good.
Number 3 is Prior Incantato. It is the last book you read.
I'm actually kind of still reading this a little bit, like I have a little bit left, but it's Wayfarer by Alexandra Racken. I think that's how you pronounce her name. But this is actually the 2nd book. The first one is called Passenger, and I've read Passenger last year, and then I started this book, but I never finished it, and I'm like, oh, I should probably finish this book before I forget everything about it.
I've never heard of it.
It's really good. It's about time traveling.
I'm in. The last book that I read was a Agatha Christie book, and it is Murder on the Orient Express. And yes, I have the edition, the film edition, which I usually don't like doing, but it was really cheap, and I was like, if I like it, I'll maybe invest in getting a nice copy. And I did like it, so yeah, this is the last book that I read, and yes, I like it very much.
Alohomora, a book that introduced you to a genre you wouldn't have considered before.
Mine is Alice in Wonderland. The reason is because I was never really into classics. I found them hard to read when I was younger because the language is so different, and the English, it's more sophisticated, and I used to just look at the pictures, but then one day I actually read it and I was like, oh, that's so good. So then, starting with Alice in Wonderland, I got into reading more classics.
My book is The Last Time We Say Goodbye by Cynthia Hand. Now I don't actually have the book with me, mainly because I listened to an audiobook for this one. Anyway, it's kind of a book that I usually would never read because it was more contemporary, more realistic a little bit. I bawled my eyes out when I read this book, but I just never considered those kind of more realistic books because I was always more, you know, fantasy or historical fiction, which is realistic too, but just in the past, I just never read any realistic or contemporary. It was not my style. It's not our style, really.
No. Spell number 5 is ridiculous. A funny book that you've read or laughed a lot reading. Mine is Where Rainbows End, also known as Love Rosie. Alisa thinks that this is a poor choice because she cried a lot.
I did.
It was sad. But there's also so many moments where you just laugh.
That's true.
Like the text messages, the way that Rosie reacts to things, the way it's set out with like letters and it has scribbles and stuff. And I think it's more funny than sad because it has a happy ending, so it's okay.
Spoiler. My one is Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Now, like Olivia said, I usually don't like the movie covers editions, mainly because I did not like this movie at all. But this book, oh, it's hilarious. I laughed so much. He's such a gifted author.
Logan Lerman was a good person.
He was a perfect Percy Jackson. They had potential in that movie. They just ruined it. A lot. Spell number 6, Sonorous. Now, this is a book that you think everyone should know about.
The one that I have chosen was introduced to me by Alisa, as a matter of fact. It is by Aprilline Pike. It is called Wings, and I think, is there 5 or 6 books?
There's 5.
5 books in the series, and it is about fairies. And that sounds really like kiddie, but it's not. Like, they don't have fairy dust and they don't do spells and skip around the garden and stuff like that. It's really cool. I think that more people should know about it because the relationships between the characters are written so well. I just like the way that fairies are portrayed. Very different to how you would.
But like it makes more sense when you think about it, how they are portrayed. So highly recommend. My book I don't actually have again with me. It's called A Tiger's Curse by Colleen Hook. I don't actually know how to pronounce her last name. I'm sorry if I got it wrong. It's also a series and it's about Hindu mythology, and I just loved it because it was something different. I think I read this book sometime after Percy Jackson because I was really into the whole mythologies and but in a modern kind of setting, and I love that. Just feel like it's really underrated as well. Like you don't hear about it that much, but it's really good. I mean, it does have a love triangle as well.
What doesn't?
I know.
And they can be done well and done bad. Spell number 7, Obliviate. Spoiler alert if you have not read Allegiant of the Divergent series, which I don't actually believe I finished because
I never read the last book.
It was difficult for me. Before I even started this, I had only read the first and the second book. I saw a spoiler online and I'm pretty sure it was like an edit. Triss is dead. I'm like, what? This is why you can't compare Triss to Katniss. Katniss wouldn't just die. I think I would have read it if I didn't know about the spoiler, but knowing that the spoiler was there the whole time, I didn't get through it because I was like, when's it gonna happen?
My book is Cruel Beauty by Rosamund Hodge. This is I believe it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I feel like a lot of people like this, but I was so excited to read this book, but I don't know, it was just, I didn't enjoy it. It was a struggle to get through. It wasn't a good retelling for me because I love fairy tale retellings. They're so good. I love them. But this one, it was just, I don't know, I didn't like it and I wish I hadn't read it.
Just personal preference. Does it have lots of reviews on the back?
It does.
Yeah. That's when you're like, is it just me that doesn't like this? So yeah.
Number 8, Imperio, a book that you have read for school. It's one of the unforgivable curses. I had to make it bad.
My unforgivable. No, I was going to say unforgivable book, but the thing is, I I actually liked it. It is General's Dime Bed by Charles Yale Harrison, and I had to read this for year 11 English, and it is about First World War and the experience of a soldier, but it sort of has lots of different soldiers with different personalities, and they're all from different backgrounds, but they're all thrown into the same experience. Only one out of a group survived. I loved it because we analysed it, and usually when you analyse something it makes you hate it because you are just tearing it apart, but I just got very emotionally into the characters. And it's one that I didn't highlight, even though it was a school book. I was like, no, I can't wreck it, it's too good.
My book is Year of Wonders by Geraldine Brooks, and I read this in year 12 English, and probably my favourite book. I loved it. I was so happy that it was on the list. This book is set in the 17th century. It's about the plague. This is actually based upon a true story of a town that basically quarantined itself to stop the spread of the plague going into other towns. This plague was just after the Great Fire in London. I just really enjoyed this book, and unlike you, there's like a lot of highlighters and notes on the side, but I had to write an exam about this, so I also really liked the layout of the story itself. It goes from the present to the past and then back to the present. It's almost like a whole year of a cycle.
Crucio. A book that was painful to read. This is kind of a series, not just one book, but it's in one book. The book is The Golden Compass, but as a whole it's His Dark Materials, and I have it in one. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a good story, but it is far too long. It could be more snappy. You can see where it's going, but you're like a chapter away from actually the thing. And the reason it was painful to read was because in my case, I would get this far and then go, wow, look at all that, I still have to go. And then it kind of felt like a chore to finish it, but still very good.
I was originally going to do Cruel Beauty for this one, but I ended up doing, people are probably gonna hate me for this, Looking for Alaska by John Green, and someone recommended this book to me. I don't know, it isn't usually the type of book, I guess, that I would read. It was just, the boy meets this girl and he basically, you know, falls in love with her kind of thing, but then she disappears. Didn't enjoy it as much as other books that I've read by him, and I was just kind of waiting for it to be over. But I wanted to finish reading it so I could tell the person that recommended it that I read it and we could talk about it. But Avada Kedavra! A book that could kill.
I'm back! A book that killed me, literally killed me, is another classic, and it's Great Gatsby. And I know I said I don't like film covers, but yes, I have the film cover of this one. I like the outline, but... And this killed me because Daisy, you're a bad person. He's so in love and literally would do anything for Daisy, and Daisy just chickened out at the last minute. Spoiler!
You're giving a lot of spoilers here.
Sorry.
My book, I kind of interpreted a little bit differently. I chose Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I only chose this book because Selena could literally kill you, so... Okay. The main character. Now, that is actually the end of the spells tag, but we have added 4 spells of our own.
Bonus questions. Accio, a book that you really want to read or want to own? I'm not really sure, but I want to read because there's too many to name. But there is a book that I want to own, and that is the hardcover special edition of The Chronicles of Narnia. You might have seen it. It's blue and it's got the lion in the middle and it's got gold. And it's just beautiful, and I love that book so much, and it means a lot to me.
Well, for me, I don't know, there's a lot of books that I want to read and quite a few that I want to own, So I guess I'll just do the book that I'm going to be reading next, which is The Healer's Apprentice by Melanie Dickerson. Now this is another fairy tale retelling, and I think it has like a little Christian twist to it. I'm looking forward to this book.
The girl on the cover looks like Hannah Baker.
Oh wow, she does a little bit. That's crazy. There's a lot of books that I want to read, especially I want to read a lot more classics, but they're always just so heavy to carry around, like, because I have hardbacks of classics, and I just want to read them, and I have read some, but...
Like the ones over there.
Yeah.
There. Big whopper. That was a very Australian thing I said.
Whopper?
Whopper. If you know what whopper means, comment.
I still don't know what it means, and I live here. Bonus spell 2. Reducto. A book with a twist that you weren't expecting. It blew your mind.
For mine, I've already used it for something today, but it blew my mind, so I'm going to use it again. And it's Murder on the Orient Express again. The ending. Have you read it? You've seen the movie?
Yeah.
Did it blow your mind?
I did. I really want to read the book.
I was convinced I know who did it, but I was so wrong.
Me too. It's really good. Well, my book is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard, and when I first read this book I was like, oh yes, I'm going to be able to guess everything and I'm just going to know how it's going to end and stuff like that, but I didn't. It was not what I was expecting, and the ending as well, it was just so unexpected. I was just like, what just happened? So I'm excited to read the next books. I think there's like 3 others after this, but I've only read the first one.
Aquamenti, a book in which you cried waterworks.
Many books.
All of the above. Mine is a classic book that you would only know if you're Australian, and even if you are Australian you probably still won't know it because it's very, very old.
Actually, I saw it when I was with my sister in the library. I saw the entire series. Like they're in like those big kind of books that have like multiples in them.
And I only know about it because it was given to my pop by his mum and dad in 1959, and he gave it to me because my favourite animals other than cats are horses. And it's called The Silver Brumby, and this is what the first book looks like. And I've been collecting the original ones for a few years now, and I think I have 4. I cried waterworks because number 1, horses, favourite. Number 2, favourite horse died. They'd mention this horse throughout and I'd be like, a Brumby is the same as like, what do they call it in America? A Mustang? A wild horse?
Well, my one is Me Before You by Jojo Moyes.
Jojo Moyes.
This is a book that I was going to have also for a book that could kill you, because after I read this book I cried an hour afterwards. I would stop maybe for a couple of minutes, like, okay, I'm good to go. Next minute I just start crying again. My stepdad even asked me, thinking, I don't know, he didn't know I was crying because of a book. He was like, oh, did someone die? Spoiler, by the way. Confundo.
A book that confused you. The book that confused me the most is a book that I had to read at school, and it is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And this is the book that Blade Runner is based on. And Blade Runner, the movie, is quite good. I like that. But I read this before because we did a comparative essay. Just so confusing.
I agree with that 100%.
Because I believe the book was written in the 60s or something?
Yep.
Yep, so it's written in the 60s.
There's some like political things in the book that are relevant to that time.
But not relevant now.
No, it's
And
just...
not relevant to this country either.
No.
And it's in the future. and the year is 1992, which is in the past for us. And like, it's really confusing and interesting to see what the 1960s idea of what the future would be like is.
I feel like after we analysed it, you kind of enjoyed it more, but it was still really confusing.
It helped explain a little bit, but there's just things like machines and devices that change your mood. A mood organ, that's what they call it. A mood organ, and what's that other one? And a device that can tell if you're an android or a human.
There's no animals in here either, they're really rare.
They're fake animals. And if you have a real one, you only have it if you're rich.
Now, my book again, I don't actually have with me because I read it from our school library, and that is The Raven Boys from the Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. Now, I know that's how you pronounce the name in English, but the word Stiefvater in German means stepfather. When I see a word that's like a German word, I just can't pronounce any other way. It just sounds funny. But anyway, moving on. I enjoyed it. I probably won't read the rest of the books, but it was kind of confusing. Like, the characters confused me sometimes. It didn't make much sense to me. Like, I didn't hate it. I enjoyed it, but it was just, yeah, I don't know, it was a bit confusing. Like, the plot and like moving characters, I don't know. Yeah. And that was it from us today.
Yes, that's it. Hopefully this isn't too long of a video.
If you agree with some of the things we've said or disagree, or if you have your own opinions or books that you would for each of the spells, please let us know in the comments down below.
And if you have some that are the same as ours, tell me too, because that'd be cool. And if you do know that Australian book, please tell me, because I don't think anybody does. But you should.
We'll be back soon, hopefully. If you have any things you'd like us to do or tags, please also comment down below and let us know. And
that's it. And if we were awkward, we're just getting back into the group of how to do it. It's been a really long time. Sorry, I'm swinging that around. And yes, thank you for having us again. Bye.
Bye.